Good morning. Here we are, the third Sunday in Advent, the Sunday of love. I'd like to share a story with you of something that is very meaningful in the Christmas world of love. Up here on Manitoulin Island, the pastors from various congregations, different denominations, all work together to help the community, to support the community in various ways. And one of the biggest things that has happened is that they created the Journey to Bethlehem. Years ago, it started because people from Mindamoya had gone to the North Shore, Bruce Mines, up near Sault Ste. Marie, where they too did a journey to Bethlehem. And that is where they got their idea. But it is greater than just one congregation. So what they did was they put out the call and asked if people from across the island would come together and create the Journey to Bethlehem. Several people in various forms come together and create this wonderful journey. There are people on the island that actually have sheep, Jacob's sheep, so that the sheep can be used for the walk when it comes that time of year when we do the Journey to Bethlehem. There are people that own donkeys because there's various donkeys throughout the journey. There's so many aspects of daily life year-round that people love doing to create this Journey to Bethlehem, the pilgrimage that people have where their heart is at Christmas time. You start at the Mindamoya Missionary Church. It's now called the Freshwater Community Church in central Manitoulin. That's where you go and you park your cars and wait. And there's singing and you just get the atmosphere. And then when the time comes, you get on a school bus and you drive around town, and everybody in the community supports this. So everyone has their Christmas lights on. There's great big Christmas displays. And you drive around in the school bus and look at all the Christmas lights in the community. And then you're taken to the Catholic Church. It's the Our Lady of Canada Catholic Church in Mindamoya. And that's where you get off and you get into the church and you sit in the rows, and whoever you happen to be with, that will create your family for the evening. They usually do families in about 10 people, sometimes 12, depending on the group. And when you arrive, you fill up a whole pew in the church as your family, and you are assigned a couple of people to be the guides for your family. And it's volunteers throughout the community that act as these guides. So one year in particular, I remember our guide was Sarah. We were in Sarah's family, and we were journeying with Sarah to Bethlehem. And as you're sitting there in your family, usually take your coat off, maybe you have your ski pants still on because it's cold, but because you're going to be outside and it's a long evening. But you sit and relax, and then they have the carols. And there's so many carols, and there's so many people that come together, and different people will entertain. Someone will do a couple of songs on the classic guitar, and then they leave, and then somebody else will come in, and there's a gentleman in the community that's known for his saxophone playing. So he'll play the saxophone, and people sing along with the carols. And then all of a sudden, King Herod appears, and he storms up the center of the aisle, and he's quite distraught at things he has heard in the community. And then the wise men appear, They come down the center aisle and they go to King Herod and they're saying, we are searching, we are looking. We hear that there's a child that has been born. And the funny thing about those three wise men, it's three pastors in the community that's their part. Every year they play. There's a Pentecostal minister and the minister from the missionary church, and I can't remember where the third one's from, but anyways, that's their job, and they come in and they do their little skit, and you hear the beginning of the story, and then they leave, and the carols just continue playing. You continue on, and then when it gets to your time to go, because it goes up and down the rows, you bundle all up, and Sarah presents us with papers. And these papers that each one of us have, it doesn't matter if you're like 5 years old or 95 years old, if you're in this family, you must have your papers when you travel. So we have our paper that says which family we are in, and we follow Sarah out, and Sarah tells us how it's a long journey. And it's a hard journey, and there's things along the way that may cause us to be concerned or worrisome, but she will get us to Bethlehem. Okay. So you travel out with your family, Sarah in the lead, and I believe that year we had her sister Rachel with us as well that came up behind so that we were all together. You cross the highway and go into this field, and you start your journey to Bethlehem. And on the way, we weren't too long on our journey, and there is a man leading a donkey, and his wife is on the donkey, and she's very pregnant, and he's saying he is bringing his wife to Bethlehem, and it's been a long journey, but he thanks us for speaking to him, and he hopes to see us again. And I believe he's usually by a fire pit. They have a fire going, so they're warm as they're there. And then you continue on, and there's different beggars and robbers along the way that jump out, and you have to be very careful that they don't steal your papers. But you continue on and go into the bush a little bit, and then out of nowhere, the lights appear, and it's just the most glorious lights. And there's 3 tiers of angels that sing, and they sing the glory to the on high and announce the birth. And it is just, you just even talking about it, you get goosebumps. And then you continue on a little bit, and there's another fire pit, and there's the 3 wise men by the fire pit. And there it's continuing on the journey. The star is very bright, and they tell you how they're following a star. And we say we're on our way to Bethlehem as well. And they let us stand by the fire a little bit to warm up. And then you continue on your journey. And you can see in the distance a faint light, like a gate that's going into the community. But before you get to the gate, you have to go through the market. And as soon as you step into this market, it is just full of people, and everyone is wanting to sell you their wares, and they have necklaces, and they have fish, and they have different things that they have for sale in the platters, and you are just wall to wall. You're just staying as close as you can and holding on to your papers. And one time I went several years, and one time I went and I had my nephew with me, and he was so scared. And I don't know how old he would have been. He might have been 10. I'm not sure. He's a grown man now. But at that time, he was so scared, and he just stuck in front of me, and I just had my arms around him, and I held him close as all these people are yelling at you, and there's the bright lights as you're walking through this market area. And so I had my arms around him, and we're walking through, and we get to the other side of the market, and there's a quiet kind of dark space once you step out of these blazing lights and noise of the market. And Rachel and Sarah both all checked on us. Do you have your papers? Does everyone have your papers? And because we're going to be seeing the Roman soldiers, we will not be able to get through the gate if we do not show the Roman soldiers our papers. And so we go a little farther, and then the Roman soldiers appear. And the Roman soldiers speak to Sarah and ask, how many people are in your family? And so she tells us, I believe maybe that year there was supposed to be 10 of us, plus Sarah and Rachel, so 12 in total. And the Roman soldiers start counting us. And there's one at either end, and the big soldier, he has his sword, and he points his sword at us, and he counts us, and he goes, I, and then X1. And we're like, X1? There were supposed to be 10 of us plus Sarah and Rachel. And he's counted us, and there's an extra. And here, one of the people, the poor people that were on the road, had decided to join our family and thought they'd feel safe and loved as part of our family. And those of us that were walking just saw a young person that we were talking to as we were leading on, and they realized they didn't have papers and they weren't part of our family. So the Roman soldiers gather them up and by the scruff of the neck and then drag them off, and they allow us to go on through the gate into the city, Bethlehem. And I remember that particular year, my nephew was so scared. It's like, you're okay. You have your papers. Come on, we're going ahead. And he was just clinging with me. Anyways, we get through, and there's like a gate, and they open the gate, and we go through, and just on the other side of the gate, there's an inn. And Sarah said, I think we should check at this inn and just see if there might be room. And we knock on the door. Sarah knocks on the door, and this lovely woman opens the door. And she's the innkeeper's wife. And she said they've been so busy and they are so full, and that they do not have any room at their inn. And then Sarah's concerned because she's very worried, because we had met a traveler along the way, and his wife was very pregnant, and she wondered if he had found room. And she said, well, actually, we just had someone come in, and we allowed them to go to the back to the stable, and she's actually given birth. Would you like to go see? So they open the door a little wider, and we all go in through the inn, through the entranceway, and the inn is gorgeous. There's tapestries and linens hanging, and there's a little bit of music playing, but the innkeeper's wife welcomes us. And she said, it's fine, just go through the back door. You'll see the stable in behind. So we walk through, and sure enough, Sarah makes sure we're all there outside the inn, and she said, I think we should go check it out. So we go in, and we knock on the door, and we walk in, and we're all in this small space. And there are animals around, there's sheep inside, there's, I think there's chickens inside, and there's either one year there was a classical guitarist, one year there was a harp, there's light music, but there in the corner is Mary and her little baby. And Joseph thanks us for coming. And the angels are there. There's a couple of little angels that are there dressed. And there's a shepherd standing there by the sheep. And it's so beautiful. It's like nothing you've ever experienced. It is the most wonderful feeling. So you just stay there and nobody says boo. Once Joseph has welcomed us, it is quiet, other than this little bit of, as I say, some sort of classical music that's kind of just in the background. And we're all standing there. And I mean, we have walked for probably half an hour or more. We started our evening an hour to an hour and a half ahead of that. But in that moment, it is quiet. And we all take in the awe of the little baby that has been born. And sometimes the baby is cooing and the mother's settling. But it's just a magnificent feeling. And you want to stay there all evening. But you know it's time to leave. And Sarah says, we need to let Mary have time, because she knows there'll be another family coming through. So we step out and you go into behind the barn and you realize you're in the backyard of somebody's house, and you walk along behind the garage and there's a van waiting for you, and your family gets in the van and the van takes you back up to the Catholic Church, and then you all get on the bus, and then you take the bus and you go back to the missionary church. And in the missionary church, there's hot chocolate and cookies, and it's just a social time. And everybody expresses the wonderful feeling of love of the season that has occurred in that time. It is a community building experience, but we all are there and take part in it. There's so many people that take part in it. The people that donate the cookies, look after the hot chocolate, the people that run the buses and the vans, those that are working as actors in this event. There are so many people. My daughter, her birthday is in September, and she's 25 now. But I remember when she was little, and her friends would say, I was the baby one year. I was the baby one year. But Rebecca was born just that little bit too soon. It was basically babies that were born the 1st of October and on were the ones that were asked if they would be, if the mothers would be Mary with their brand new babies, that would do that role. And they'd probably go through 3 or 4 mothers and babies in an evening. And the event would happen 3 or 4 nights a week. At the beginning, it was 3, and then near the end, they added an extra night, because people would come by the busload to take in this event, so they had to add more. But yeah, there's kids, and then when you're in high school, the different clubs that would get together and be part of the actors that would be the Roman soldiers, or different actors throughout the evening, the different parts that they played. It is something that the community came together and did in love. Love for the Christmas story, love for their community, love for each other, working together regardless of your denomination, your faith. The story is the same. At COVID, they didn't do it, and it has not come back. There were fewer people in the community, fewer people going to church that have the abilities to do some of the things that have happened. Hopefully, someday it will come back again. But it's been missed the last couple of years, that you feel like there's something missing in your Advent preparations, that you didn't actually take that personal pilgrimage to Bethlehem to sense the feeling of the joy and the peace of that evening and that walk in the community. I share this with you as something that is held in love in my heart. And maybe someday we'll bring it back in our community, and you'll be able to come and join us and experience this wonderful, joyous event here on Manitoulin Island. Merry Christmas, everyone.